this webinar this morning about a topic that I know I need a lot of education in. So I'm so thankful Elizabeth is joining us. But first, I'd like to introduce Michelle Cotto, Director of Discover New England. Michelle.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Carrie. And as far as I know, we are not robots yet. So we're still real humans. So we're excited to be with you this morning. So I know one area that is rapidly impacting us more and more, including all of us at Discover New England and all of you in the tourism industry. In ways beyond just marketing, it also affects our ability to compete is innovation, and it's also a challenge for policymakers. There's been a number of hearings on this topic. We saw them bring in some leaders in the AI industry to speak with Congress, and I know the White House has some executive orders that they've passed, and they also introduced a blueprint, and it was the AI Bill of Rights, I believe. So there's been some attempts domestically to put some policy to this, but nothing has moved as substantially as the EU AI bill. And it does impact marketers and researchers in many ways, and not just within the physical boundaries of Europe. So I know a lot of you are already familiar with the GDPR bill. It's the General Data Protections Regulations that has been enforced in the EU. And that does manage how we manage, it controls how we manage data legally. And I know the AI bill does relate in some ways. So I wanted to just say that our work at Discover New England to manage New England and to increase that demand for long haul and international travelers. Our goal is of this program, the education program, is to bring you these experts that can help you understand these trends when it affects international travel like this, and to know the best practices and how to safeguard your businesses. So I know Carrie has worked really hard to build up a really great lineup of professionals and experts through our webinar and education program. And I know we're thrilled to have our industry leader with us this morning, who certainly has her finger on the pulse. So again, as Carrie mentioned, this is an area that is changing so fast. I am going to be taking a ton of notes with this as well. I really do believe this is not going to be the last webinar that we bring you on this topic, as this landscape continues to change. So Carrie, thank you so much for setting this up. I'm going to turn it back to you to introduce our expert speaker today.
Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is in the conversations I'm having with properties and partners within our region. This is something that there are continued questions about. So I thought it was a great time to bring in truly an expert in the field. So Elizabeth Sutherland is co-owner of Sutherland Weston Marketing Communications, a firm in Bangor, Maine. And the firm has been around for 20 years, and Elizabeth was like 12 when she founded it. So it's perfect, right? And Elizabeth's background really it's marketing communications, it's PR, but she has had her finger in the pulse of tourism for as long as I've known her, which is over 20 years. Whatever, I don't know what it is. But she was an integral part of the Convention and Visitor Bureau and the CVB world in Bangor a long time ago, and has become an integral part in education with not only the Office of Tourism, but also Maine Tourism Association. So she comes to us with some really great credentials in being able to do this. And so I'm so very thankful that you are able to spend some time with us this morning. And from there, Elizabeth, I'll just turn it right over to you.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate that. And you made me sound so young. I appreciate that as well. Carrie and I met when we were babies, and it was great ever since. So thank you, Michelle and Carrie, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here this morning. I'm going to start off by sharing that my computer and I have had a little bit of a war with Microsoft 365 over the last 3 or 4 days, and I have not yet won. I'm sure I will, but I am using a different slide deck system than PowerPoint, so it's a little bit clunky. So please forgive me as I go through my slides, because it may not be as smooth as it could be. But the information remains the same. When Carrie first reached out to me, it's funny because we have the folks here at Sutherland Weston, we've done a ton of workshops this year over the past 12 months about AI, because it is really a huge and growing piece of innovation for businesses throughout the region, throughout the world. And one of the things that we've been working towards here at Sutherland Weston is really understanding the innovation itself, understanding how it can be used in practical applications today, and then also what the potential is for the future. And so I wanted to start today by talking a little bit about understanding AI foundationally. I'm hoping that you leave here really understanding what artificial intelligence is and isn't. And then talking specifically about practical applications for enhancing customer engagement in tourism by using AI. And then we'll focus in a little bit on the EU AI Act and how that relates to all of the things we've just talked about that are really cool and innovative and things that you can do in your businesses to achieve greater operational efficiency, better customer engagement, and hopefully business growth. As we go through, Carrie and Michelle will be kind of keeping an eye on the questions and answers, the Q&A section of the webinar. And, I'm happy to be interrupted if it's a point that needs to be addressed right at that time, or we have saved time at the end of this session for some Q&A to take place there as well. So either way works for me. I've also shared with Carrie and Michelle that I'm happy to open up ChatGPT and show everyone sort of how you can use it immediately at the end of the session if anyone's interested. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so now if I can make this all work, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you see a big slide, right? So I want to start by saying that 60% of hotels and motels are currently using some form of AI. AI can increase, I'm a stats person, so you're going to get a slew of stats right now. So 60% of hotels and motels are currently using some form of AI. AI can increase restaurant patronage during off-peak times by up to 25%. AI can reduce hotel operating costs by more than 40%. I mean, that's just sort of staggering right there, right? And 70% of users trust AI to find meals and entertainment when they're using a recommendation system. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that later. But I think that's also indicative of the understanding that people are ready to adopt AI in a more serious way. So let's talk a little bit about what AI is. So AI, artificial intelligence, is a branch of computer science. Oh, look, oh, see, 25, 40, 70. Like I said, slightly clunky. Sorry about that. And again, just to remind everyone, 25% is the amount of restaurant covers that can be increased during off-peak times. 40% is the reduction in operating costs that AI can provide to hotels, and 70% of recommendation system users, and recommendation systems would be things like TripAdvisor or OpenTable. 70% of users are comfortable that those systems can find them what they're looking for. Okay, here we go. We're just going to stop there. Artificial intelligence is a branch of computer science that aims to create systems capable of performing tasks that would typically require human intelligence. So those tasks include learning, reasoning, problem solving, perception, and understanding language. So AI's various applications like voice recognition or natural language processing or image analysis and machine learning are already integrated in our lives. So, for example, when you type the price of Apple into Google, that is, you are, like we all know right now, that when I type in the price of Apple into a Google search bar, I'm looking for what is the stock price of Apple, in the company today, right? Like we sort of recognize that that's what I'm looking for. So Google recognizes that too, and will give me the stock price before it gives me the price of a Gala apple at the grocery store, because Google is using natural language processing. It's a form of machine learning where it understands what I'm thinking and can translate that into what it's going to deliver for results. Image analysis, like the barcode here, is something that we've had around for a long time, where a machine can read an image and understand what it is that it's looking at and then do some work based on that image that it's reading. And anytime you get a call from your credit card company asking if you really made that purchase for a $7,000 pinball machine in Dallas, Texas, that is an example of machine learning where the credit card companies are not doing that fraud check by hand. They are doing that through a machine AI process where they are truly figuring out that that does not look like your regular behavior. It has learned your behavior and it is taking steps to protect your dollars consequently. So at its core, AI works by processing large amounts of data, learning from it to make decisions or predictions. This is achieved through algorithms that allow computers to learn from past data patterns. So the steps are pretty simple: data collection, data analysis, learning, and then decision making. So from a tourism perspective, in tourism and hospitality, AI transforms how businesses interact with customers, manage operations, and even designs customer services. So it can enhance guest experiences by personalizing the interactions. And I think that's really an important piece that I want to make sure we are all sort of focused on, is that the goal of AI is to help the human interactions become more personalized and therefore more valuable. When we're talking about tourism and hospitality, that is the sort of core goal. And so as the industry is evolving and as innovation is being created to support the tourism and hospitality industries, what we're really seeing are AI tools that really begin to help personalize our interactions with our guests and customers. So how are those tools? What are those tools? How do we use them, really? So let's just talk about a few. Sorry about the clunky slides. So the first one is, not this one. Let's just go back, shall we? Oops. Not so far back. There we go. So the first thing I want to talk about is ChatGPT. So we hear a lot about ChatGPT, and it's a really valuable tool for marketers. We use it here at Sutherland Weston every day. In fact, we encourage our team to use it every day, not because we are trying to replace their talents and abilities, but because we really want to understand how it can augment the talent that we have in-house and how they can use it to make things better. What we're not trying to do is to create sort of ChatGPT blog posts that sound like they were written by ChatGPT, right? That's not necessarily what the goal of ChatGPT is in its sort of end form. what it's really designed to do is to help increase your efficiency in your daily operations by minimizing the need for humans to do some repetitive tasks. So one of the ways that that works in tourism and hospitality is that ChatGPT can create a chatbot that can engage with your customers 24/7, answering inquiries, providing travel advice, and even handling reservations. And so the key to this is that you need to understand that it's a chatbot. We've all used them every day, right? Or maybe not every day, but a few times a month, we end up on a website that has a chatbot that is very clearly not a real human behind it, but rather has some scripts that it can share and go back and forth. So that's sort of the first generation of chatbot, and they're getting more and more sophisticated every day because they are learning from every interaction to have a more natural tone of voice, to better understand through that natural language processing what a customer is actually asking for when they make a request. So one of the things, as this example on the far left shows, is that you can have a restaurant chatbot that can show you the menu, can help you book a reservation, and can answer basic questions or talk to a real human. So, another option is image recognition. So if you've been to Disney or any sort of large entertainment sort of venue like a Disney, then you've seen this happen where the time for the wait time is sort of created and changes, and now it's all done electronically. It's very fancy, but it's done electronically because what's happening is that they're using image recognition software to analyze the crowd and determine the length of wait and manage the queues effectively to reduce those wait times and improve visitor flow because they can see where crowds are and where they're not. So they're able to create more efficient, more regular patterns of experience for folks. And then I really want to talk a little bit about recommendation systems because they are sort of a key to this. Recommendation systems like TripAdvisor are AI-powered systems that analyze past behavior of consumers to suggest personalized packages. So for TripAdvisor, it would be a personalized vacation with travel packages, accommodations, activities, based on things that that consumer has done before. The impact is that increases booking conversion rates by offering tailored options that can meet individual preferences. And it really allows for a personalized experience for the end user, but at the same time, the ability to scale, because that system can be doing it for thousands of people at once rather than one at a time in a traditional approach. So AI allows businesses to scale by automating tasks. By integrating AI, tourism companies can handle more customers and use fewer resources. And so I really want to talk about the idea of a small bed and breakfast in Maine. So if you had a small bed and breakfast in Maine, maybe in Bar Harbor, that was known for attracting tourists who were interested in experiencing the natural beauty and the local charm of the area, what is it that could be happening for you with AI that could increase your engagement and your bookings and enhance your reviews so that you can continue to grow year over year? So one of the things that could happen is that you could use your own recommendation system. So the bed and breakfast owner could integrate an AI-powered recommendation system into their website and booking platform. And through that, the system would collect data from the customer's previous bookings, reviews, and their online interactions, the things they've clicked on, the preferred activities that they've done. And then that particular recommendation system that is specific to the bed and breakfast can recommend this data and understand patterns and preferences for that individual customer. So then what do they do, right? So they recognize that customer Fred has booked for a long weekend in Bar Harbor. And before Fred arrives, he receives a personalized email suggesting itineraries that he might like to enjoy in Bar Harbor for the days that he's there. That is based on the preferences that have been sort of identified from his online behavior and past behavior in the region. So if Fred enjoys hiking, the system might recommend a daily plan that includes a guided hike in Acadia, followed by a relaxing evening at a seafood restaurant that's known for its sunset views, right? Once Fred arrives at the bed and breakfast on check-in, he's provided with a custom guidebook created based on the preferences that he has identified, including maps, local attractions, and special events that are taking place during his stay. And then post-visit, after his stay, Fred would receive a personalized follow-up email with an invitation to book during the season when the activities aligning with what he's interested in are at their peak. Like perhaps he went on a whale watch and had a great time. And so the recommendation is for him to come next spring, really, late spring when whale watching is at its peak. So these are all things that can happen with the use of an app like Yelp Fusion that allows you to create your own recommendation system that is specific to your customers. So guests feel more connected and valued due to the personalized experience, which leads to higher satisfaction rates. It's not that they are receiving a handwritten note, right? There may be a handwritten note on top of the booklet that they receive when they check in, but they understand that that handwritten sort of note is going with a booklet that was created based on recommendations that have been collected. So it's not that you need to hide that this was created using artificial intelligence. It's that it allows you to give them a more personalized experience while using something that is less personal, right? It can absolutely boost repeat bookings because those tailored suggestions and proactive engagement encourages guests to return. And it will absolutely enhance reviews because if you've made Fred happy, Fred is going to make sure to say that when he is leaving a review on Google or TripAdvisor. So this just quick example is one way that a small business can, in the tourism sector, can effectively use AI. And it not only leverages the technology, but it also fits perfectly with the intimate, personalized services that you would expect to receive from a bed and breakfast. It's not something that you would necessarily, nothing that I just suggested to you wouldn't feel appropriate or correct for that type of lodging experience. I'm always like, I click a slide and I'm like, what are we going to see? So we're going to talk about AI's impact on productivity as well. So AI not only enhances customer engagement, but it can also boost the productivity around the clock for your business by automating routine tasks and analyzing customer data to predict needs. So, for example, AI-powered chatbots can handle multiple customer interactions simultaneously, which means that they can be answering the question about, do you have wheelchairs as well, or is my guide dog permitted, at the same time that it is answering, do you have irons in your rooms? Do you have an ironing board? You know, those kinds of questions as well. So questions about travel restrictions, booking reservations, all of those things can happen automatically so that the staff that you have are able to connect individually and personally with the guests that you have on site, and are able to provide a little bit extra of that on-site service because they're not managing sort of those routine questions that come over and over again from online inquiries. So if I'm lucky, we're going to get a yes. So for example, if you are a small ski resort in Vermont, where a chatbot is on your website handling inquiries about trail conditions, equipment rentals, lodging availability, your staff is then able to make sure the trails are well groomed. They're able to make sure the ski rentals fit well and are suited for each customer in the best possible way, and provide those ski lessons for all of the newbies that aren't really quite sure they know what they're doing. AI can use predictive analytics to understand customer preferences and anticipate their needs, which helps businesses tailor their offerings more effectively. So the image on the left is a now twice weekly email that I get from the Cliff House at Pikes Peak in Manitoba Springs. So, which is in Colorado. I was there once, Manitou Springs rather, sorry. I was there once, it was for a conference. They now have me on their list. They're darn sure I'm gonna come back, even though it is significantly higher than Denver, the elevation, and I had altitude sickness the entire time I was there. It was the most miserable conference I've ever been to. But they'd really like me to know that there's karaoke on Thursday nights, so I should come. This is the most ineffective email outreach that they could possibly do because the distance between Manitou Springs and Bangor, Maine is significant. And I'm not going to be there on a Thursday night to sing karaoke, right? However, what they could be doing is really making sure that they understand who I am so that they can send me information that makes more sense for me. And they could then also understand who are their local customers who absolutely want to be there on Thursday night to break into a song by Gloria Gaynor. So by automating routine tasks and freeing up staff to engage better, you can really increase customer engagement significantly. Strategies for using AI to maintain high engagement levels are personalized marketing, so something slightly better than karaoke on Thursday nights, enhancing the visitor experience with tools like interactive guides or virtual reality, as we discussed, or the ability to address the challenge of limited time or staff and how AI can offer solutions that help reduce the amount of personal time that's required from your staff. So AI isn't just about automation, it's a tool for creating deeper and more consistent engagement with your customers and their experiences. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with the slides, folks. Again, I really apologize. Let's see what the next one is. It's very exciting. There we go. Okay. So many tourism businesses operate with limited staff and resources, and AI can provide solutions by taking over those repetitive tasks, as we've talked about. But as we've seen today, AI has an extraordinary potential to transform the tourism industry, not just by automating tasks, but by fundamentally changing how we engage with and serve our customers. Automated efficiency, they can streamline operations, can handle automated check-ins, you can handle customer inquiries, basic customer inquiries, and that frees up staff time. Predictive personalization. Through predictive analytics and personalized marketing, AI can anticipate and meet customer needs, craft bespoke experiences that drive engagement and satisfaction. So no two guides that bed and breakfast produces have to ever be the same. And then it can also provide enhanced interactions, because tools like virtual reality tours for museums or historical attractions can allow for immersive experiences that attract and delight tourists, setting your business apart from the competitive market. So with that, I'm going to move to how this all works with the EU AI Act. But before I do that, are there any specific questions that anyone has about AI in general before we get into now how do you use all of these cool tools and stay compliant?
I'm not seeing any, Elizabeth. No.
Okay, great.
If people seriously type right in whatever you'd like to know, because this is your opportunity to really learn what's going on and how you can best use it.
I saw somebody had a question. Is it Georgette? Is there a way to unmute? Sorry. Or do you prefer that they type the question in?
I didn't see that, so maybe type in. I'm not seeing. Do you see? Can you tell me who asked the question? I can unmute them or allow them to talk.
What was that? That had a thing. I want to unmute you for a second and see if you can speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Hi, this is Georgette from the 4 Points Boston Newton. I just had a question on the app. You were talking about a tour itinerary app, and I couldn't catch the name of it. I know there's a few different products out there. I just didn't know which one you recommended.
So I don't have a specific recommendation. I think I was talking about Yelp Fusion. I think that's what you are referring to. I honestly don't have a specific recommendation, because different businesses have different needs, and there's a lot of flexibility. But also, I will just say, Georgette, that AI, the world of AI is the wild, wild west now. And so what's the perfect application this year may not be the perfect application next year. And I know that sounds terribly frustrating, because if you're going to invest in this kind of a product, you want to make sure you're making a good long-term investment. What I encourage our customers and clients to do is to really consider, what are the needs that you have today? What are the needs that you think you'll have in 3 to 5 years? And are they the same types of needs? And then to look at the app or the software that you are considering, and just make sure that what you're seeing is that they are having regular and repetitive releases of new features and benefits. Because the real key is to make sure that you are investing in a software company that is still developing its product, that it hasn't just decided this is the product it has and this is what you're going to get. Because as this innovation expands and grows, and as we get more sophisticated in using AI, you're going to want to make sure that you are staying current. So that's really my best recommendation at this point.
Great. No, that's great advice. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We have a question from Victoria. And Victoria, you want to go ahead and ask your question, or? Oh, you're muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
There we go. Yep.
Hi, this is Victoria. I'm an incoming MBA student at Boston University, and I am trying to pivot into this industry, and AI is obviously a huge piece of it. So my question was really around what kind of like job titles or like job roles would have these sorts of responsibilities, or what's your suggestion for like for someone in my position that is coming into this like new area?
Yep, absolutely. That's a great question, Victoria. And I would say that more than the job title, it's really going to be about the eagerness of the employee to learn and become an expert in AI themselves. There are obviously roles inside information technology and roles inside operations and marketing and communications where AI tools and tourism sort of conveniently fit. So customer service, marketing, communications, information technology all have a place and a role where where they could be a natural AI leader in a business. But the reality is AI is going to start touching every single part of our industries if they don't already. So the key is really to be open, be ready to understand, and be ready to offer your expertise as sort of a font of knowledge in how AI can work and increase efficiencies in a business more than looking for a specific title. I will tell you that I have a relatively new member of our team, new to the workforce member of our team. And, her knowledge of sort of how technology works is just fantastic. And so we often lean on her to help us shape new directions based on the thinking that she has. It's that idea of being willing to be a participant in that wild, wild west that I mentioned earlier. And if you are someone who is good with a lasso, then we're going to try and find you and make sure that we're leveraging that expertise.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Elizabeth, I don't know if you can see, so JD Hale has a question. JD, I'm gonna unmute you or allow you to talk if you want to kind of ask this question. Great typing. It's a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Yeah, in terms of the way AI scrapes content from across the website, I'm wondering, the one thing that works well with Google is when you get results and you click on the results, you see when it was posted, the date. And in travel and tourism, and this is especially connected to recommendations, coffee shops close, coffee shops open, restaurants close, they open. So the date of recommendations that's out on the web can be very dated. And when we're doing searches now, we're not seeing the differentiation of how old the content is. So my question was, and I know AI is improving every day, what do you think the timeline is that the recipient, whether it's a consumer or an end that's looking to put together recommendations, when do you think that will improve so you know the content is recently updated? Curious on that.
So, yeah, that's a great question. And I would say a couple of things. One, you can set some parameters inside your request to scrape content that says, I don't want anything older than. 2 years ago, when we first started using AI here at Sutherland Weston, it would only go to 2019, right? All of the information was pre-pandemic. It was sort of a ridiculous approach to understanding what you were getting back for content because it was so old and so dated that it wasn't, because of the pandemic especially, was really not very usable. But now ChatGPT especially is using pretty up-to-date content. They are scraping the websites and the world of Google using today's information very often. But When you think about the way that it is doing its machine learning, I think the key piece to understand is that it's taking an average of everything it sees. So it is seeing the same thing from 2015 that it's seeing from now, and that's where the errors tend to sort of come together. I was listening to a news story on NPR earlier this week about a man who tried to create the perfect chocolate chip cookie using a recipe generated through ChatGPT. And what he discovered was the ChatGPT cookie was only average. And it was only average because it's taking the average of all of the information it's receiving about cookie recipes from across the web. And so there are two things that need to happen in order for us to get better specific data from any AI tool right now. And that's that we have to define the parameters better so that the machine understands exactly what we're looking for. And the machine has to get better at understanding the nuances of us. And what we're asking for is something that is current for today, not last week or last year. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, that does. That's great. The other thing that I learned in a different gathering in person on this topic was you can ask AI to search again at a higher level. You can say, can you do that again? But and in this case, to build on what you just said, you can say, with content from the last year or something to that effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think so. With regard to those kinds of questions, when you're asking ChatGPT, for example, to give you information, you can be like, I am always polite to my ChatGPT, because when the robots take over the world, Michelle, I want them to remember me fondly, right? I am always polite. I say please and thank you, and that was great. And I just try to be very, very friendly because I want to be remembered well. But that doesn't mean that I can't be really specific. And our digital specialist here at Sutherland Weston, Michaela, she's just downright rude to her ChatGPT. She just tells it, I know I want this, not that. I mean, if I spoke to my children the way she speaks to her ChatGPT, I would be, well, let's just say I'd be getting a visit from the Child Protective Services, right? But you can get really specific, and you can just tell it, no, what you've given me is not what I want. Try again, try with these parameters. It's really all about how you prompt it. And this is why there are, to Victoria's point about, what is the role for somebody who's looking to get into this field? It's really about understanding how you build the prompts, whether you're building it in something that's language-based like ChatGPT, or whether you're building it in sort of some other data model set analysis kind of AI tool. It's really about understanding the parameters that you're giving to the tool when you are asking for specific information.
That's great.
But it also really, I would never suggest to anyone, going back to that sort of B&B personalized guidebook for their guests kind of concept. I would never suggest at this point for any of those sort of products to be produced without having some human review it quickly for errors, because it is still making plenty of errors.
Sure. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely.
Thanks for the question, JD. So Elizabeth, do you want to move on into the EU component of?
I will. Yep, and I'm going to go back to sharing my screen.
Great. Those are good questions.
I'm not sure. That's not really the screen I wanted to share. Let's try that again.
Your computer loves you today.
I'm telling you. There we go. Overview of the EU Act, right? So the European Union introduced the EU AI Act as a comprehensive framework aimed at regulating AI technologies to ensure the ethical and safe use. So this legislation is particularly relevant for businesses that operate or plan to expand within the EU, but it's especially important to understand that if you have a European resident who is interacting with your business, then it is your responsibility to comply. And for those of us who've been around for a bit, went through the GDPR situation, as Michelle has shared, right? There was a period of time when countries in the EU were looking at small to mid-sized businesses in the States as organizations that were not compliant with GDPR, and they were actually fining those businesses and trying to come after them with legal reasons. And so we're trying to avoid that with the EU AI Act. Now, my personal belief is that we're not going to see that same level of determination from countries inside the EU to create compliance around the EU AI Act for a couple of reasons. One, AI is still evolving so rapidly that it is hard to stay compliant continually in all aspects. And so I think their focus is really going to be internal, as inside the EU for the next couple of years, as they sort of identify the ability to control compliance internally before they begin to look outside the EU. But it's still very important for us to be paying attention to this, because it is our responsibility if we are working with EU customers. So the Act focuses on 3 key components: transparency, risk management, and accountability. And it sets some pretty strict standards for AI systems that interact with the public. So while the EU legislation and its implications extend globally, compliance with these regulations also can set a benchmark for the best practices for using AI in the United States as well. And we are behind the EU in creating sort of a standard of compliance with the ethical use of AI as individual businesses here in the United States, but I suspect that it's coming. So understanding and aligning with these regulations can enhance not only your sort of understanding of the ethics around AI for yourselves, but it can really set you up to enhance the trust with international clients, partners, positioning yourself as a leader in ethical AI usage. So the EU AI Act categorizes AI systems into different risk levels with unacceptable, high risk, limited risk, and minimal or no risk. So every AI system sort of known can be categorized into one of these levels. Unacceptable levels are something that we should all try to avoid. These are where health and safety of an individual is at risk because of an AI system. This would be, for example, using AI to do some profiling over race or religion, which could be deemed as an unacceptable risk. And for the most part, we don't normally fall into seeing AI systems using that level of profiling in commercial applications. High-risk systems face some stringent requirements, and in tourism, this could include tools used for customer profiling based on past behaviors, decision-making, and automated customer service. And we can talk specifically about what are sort of high-risk applications, but I did just want to mention that that's kind of one of the things that you'll want to be paying close attention to as you're looking at your compliance. And that's why we spent so much time talking about what are the different types of AI that is currently in use in the market, because I really want to make sure folks understand what's high risk versus limited risk or no risk. High risk AI systems need to undergo rigorous testing, documentation, and regular monitoring to ensure compliance. So if you are using a high risk system, and this an example would be biometric check-ins, right? So if you were using biometrics to check a customer in, that would be a high risk system that would need to be regularly tested, documented, and monitored to make sure that that information wasn't going someplace it shouldn't. So transparency and accountability are important, and transparency is the cornerstone of the EU AI Act. And so much like GDPR, AI systems interacting with the public must clearly disclose that AI is being used, and businesses must provide clear explanations of how those systems operate. And this is where having a good understanding of the AI tools that you're using and how they operate, how they work, is really critical for you to achieve this level of transparency. The other piece of this is that if you are using AI for customer service or for recommendations, you'll need to inform customers of that and possibly allow them to opt out of AI-driven interactions. Now, for most folks, they can choose to opt out by just not choosing those recommendations, or they can choose to not use the automated chatbot on your website. They already have an opt-out choice, but there are other places where your interactions may be AI-driven that you haven't that aren't classically familiar to your customer. And so that's where you're going to really want to make sure that you're disclosing that AI is being used to produce that information. So how can you be compliant with the EU AI Act? So the very first thing that you want to do is conduct an AI audit. So go through your operating system, the policies and procedures that you're currently using, and identify any that may fall under any AI that you may have. And then make sure that you have an understanding of the different levels of risk and identify where you feel your AI systems may fall under that high risk category especially. Then you'll want to develop a compliance strategy. So you'll want to align your AI practices with the EU AI Act's requirements, focusing on, again, transparency, data protection, and risk management. For many of you, I'm going to make the assumption that you're on this webinar because you do have European customers, so I'm sure you already are following the GDPR regulations. If you're not, that's a separate conversation, but we should have that because that's important. But a lot of the compliance for EU AI can be sort of built into your GDPR compliance as well. So making sure that your data is protected, that there's some transparency around how you use that data and why can just be added into that sort of privacy policy that you have around people's personal information for GDPR. The risk management component is slightly different, and that's where you're going to want to integrate that compliance into your daily operations. So educating your team on the importance of the regulations and ensure they understand how to implement them on a daily basis so that they are not inadvertently doing something that puts your business at risk from a compliance standpoint. Developing clear communication strategies to inform customers about the AI tools that you do use and their rights under these regulations. So I don't know how many of you are Amazon shoppers, but if you are an Amazon shopper, you are seeing AI being used and explained in a way that is transparent and falls within the EU AI Act regulations as you shop. So today, if you haven't done this before, pick a product on Amazon, scroll to the bottom where the customer reviews are, and you will see at the top of the customer reviews a blurb about the product, and it will say, based on AI review of the reviews, customers say. So it clearly defines that it's using AI to sort of aggregate this generic review based on the customer responses below, and it will tell you what customers are saying about the product. It's transparent, it's compliant, but it is using AI in a very sophisticated way to give you a snapshot about what other peers are thinking about the product that you're interested in buying. That is the kind of thing that needs to happen in your business if you're using AI. Sorry. So, the key to compliance for the AI Act from the EU is that it can become a marketing point that you use to build trust with all of your customers and partners, not just those from Europe. Because you can position your business as a leader in ethical AI, which can be a really strong differentiator in a competitive market. If someone feels like you are taking the time to be this attentive and pay this kind of attention, it just reassures them that you are also paying attention to the quality of your food product, to the cleanliness of your rooms, to the restoration and repair of your attraction, right? So this is a great way to sort of use the need to be compliant with the EU AI Act as a trust builder in all other aspects of your business. So I want to just kind of talk about, I'm going to stop sharing because this is really just as much. I'm going to find my mouse and then I can stop sharing. I want to talk a little bit about a case study that has the potential for a compliance strategy review. So a hotel chain with properties that may be both in New England and Europe implements AI-driven customer service bots, like we talked about, and some personalized marketing, so that if you're in the hotel that's in Paris, you are not getting email messages that there's a karaoke night on Thursdays in Boston, right? So the chain can conduct a thorough review of its AI systems. It can ensure transparency with customers about AI usage and align its data processing with the EU GDPR and ACT requirements. And this proactive approach not only ensures compliance, but it also strengthens customer trust because they're seeing that you are paying attention at that granular level. And studies have shown over and over and over again that the more trust your customer has in you, the more positive they feel about you, and that will lead to increased bookings and more positive customer feedback, which also leads to better peer reviews, which leads to more bookings and more bookings and more bookings and more bookings, right? So just to wrap up before we go, and I know we're sort of at our hour, this went longer than I anticipated, but I am more than happy to stay on if that's a possibility and people have questions. The AI Act presents a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities for integrating an understanding of the regulations and the systems into your daily operations. It can help ensure compliance and enhance customer trust, but it also can make sure that you are choosing the right systems to begin with that are ready to grow with you. And I think that's really key from a business perspective. My one word of advice is, if you're unsure where to start, consider consulting with an AI legal expert about developing that compliance plan. There are folks out there who can do this for you. And it can be helpful to have that sort of legal expertise, because the last thing you really want to do is fall afoul of the entire European Union, right?
Elizabeth,
That's,
yeah.
let's just avoid that if we can, shall we?
That's a heavy final statement. I'm just going to say that.
Well, then let my final statement be, I'm happy to take any questions if there are.
So I don't see any up right now, but I have a question for you. So if
Sure.
someone is using like the Yelp Fusion that you talked about, is Yelp Fusion giving some of those AI kind of language, basics that is, we're using the AI, this is what it's doing. Are they already doing that when you're using it, or is it still incumbent upon the hotel attraction, whatever it may be, to put those statements to go along with some of that?
So that's a really good question. And to tell you the truth, I have not dug into Yelp Fusion
Okay.
since this act was passed to give you a definitive answer. But I will tell you this, absolutely positively, even if they do, you should be doing it yourself, right? There should be a statement on your website. There should be a statement at the bottom of that guide that you put together for somebody that says this was created with the help of an AI powered system. Right. It's as simple as that, right? You do not have to do from a compliance standpoint, that's enough. You just need to say, this is how this happened.
Okay. And so like on your chat bots, having that, I mean, even though it's a chat bot and it's kind of
AI powered.
AI powered, and that's just the simple statements. So
Yep.
a lot of these pieces can really be taken care of by simple statements. I think the hardest part is to actually figure out what components are using AI, because I think some pieces we are just so used to now, we're not thinking about them as being AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is one of the reasons why I went through that long list in the beginning of different ways that AI can be used, because it's important for you to be thinking sort of analytically about your daily business operations, so that you can determine what is something that is just machine learning, or is classic CRM systems, customer relationship management systems, are not necessarily AI powered. They're using a database and you're asking it to query everybody who has a zip code of this, and it's pulling that list for you. That's not AI powered. That's just machine learning, right? The difference is when you ask a system to say, show me everybody who lives in northern New England, who comes here twice a year, who might be interested in belly dancing and snowmobiling, right?
Wow.
And they're pulling that, right. Well, and they're pulling that information from a variety of different sources, not just from the CRM that you have. Like that then becomes an AI powered system. So there's a slight difference, or a large difference if you're looking for snowmobiling belly dancers.
Perfect. Great. And Michelle shared a couple of articles in the webinar chat, but I will also share these as follow-up. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being with us today and working through this with us. I think there may be more questions, but as I field them later, I will probably need to reach out because I don't think I have all the answers either. And for the attendees, after this webinar closes, you should receive a quick 3-question questionnaire. The most important question on there for me is what type of learning or education you would like for Discover New England to provide. That will help me narrow down and move in the right direction as far as our industry is concerned. So I'd appreciate if you take a couple of minutes, 3 really, to just answer that for me and let me know where we want to go in the future, because I'm happy to do and source whatever is needed. So again, Elizabeth, thank you so much. You have always been such a great help to me, and I'm sure that a great help to the folks that have been on this webinar today. So appreciate your time.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to help.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah.